Sup guys, I'm Redeem Zoomer. Today I'm taking the political compass test, and this is mostly just for fun because I don't really know exactly what my political beliefs are anymore. I mostly focus on theology these days. Like back when I was a leftist, I used to be a secular leftist. I had very, very detailed political opinions on everything. But these days I feel like politics is just downstream from culture, and culture is just downstream from theology. So I'm just focused more on religious issues, and that sort of bleeds into the culture. But I still think politics is important. It's just I don't know exactly what I believe anymore. It depends on the day. Some days I feel like I'm just like a regular conservative Christian. Some days I'm like, oh, I have this enlightened balance between conservative and progressive. And some days I'm just like, oh, we need authority. So I don't really know. So I guess I'm going to take this test to find out where I land. Okay, before taking this test, this is not a survey. These aren't questions or propositions. Okay, some propositions are extreme. Okay, it seems like it's mostly just seeing how you're going to react to these propositions. I get it. Some people have like overthought their answers to these questions, so I'm just going to answer these based on my initial reactions. Okay, here we go. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Okay, so I can tell that this question is worded from a left wing perspective, but maybe that's the point. Maybe they're trying to see if you like the way this question sounds or if you don't. And, I do lean more conservative generally, but I'm more of a social conservative. Economically, I'm a lot more balanced, so I don't see anything wrong with this, but at the same time, I don't really care, so I guess I'll say agree, but not strongly. Because as a Christian, I know that corporations can do really bad things, and we shouldn't support human rights abuses by corporations just because, we don't want government interference in the economy. Humanity does have to come first. I would always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. No, our country these days, our embassies are flying really disgusting symbols, and it's in the name of the country. It's disgracing the country, so I do not support my country when it does wrong things. And even when our country does things in the name of what's right, they often don't do it in a good way. Like in the name of fighting terrorism, they'll like bomb children in Afghanistan. So no, I don't always support my country, whether it's right or wrong. No one chooses their country of birth. So it's foolish to be proud of it. It depends on what you mean by proud. If you have pride in like the sinful sense of I think my country is better than other countries and I think I'm better just by being part of this country, then no. But I think for social cohesion, it is important for people to sort of have a shared national identity. So this radical multiculturalism where we just say that borders are imaginary and cultures are imaginary, that's not very helpful. For social cohesion, all people in a country need to unify around some sort of common identity. So I guess I would say disagree to this. All right, our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. All right, so I don't know. The thing is, what do you mean by race? How do you categorize that? I mean, these days I'd be mostly considered white. I'm Jewish and Italian. That's my ancestry. But 100 years ago, I wouldn't be considered white. So I know that there's some like alt right people who say, "Oh, I'm not a racist. I'm just like a race realist." But I don't know. I don't think there's anything to this. So I would say disagree. The only reason I'm not saying strongly disagree is I think this is trying to feel out like how woke you are about racial issues. I'm against racism, but I'm not woke about it. So I feel like if this was just a pure quiz, I would say strongly disagree. But I don't know. Okay, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. No, because I don't know, radical Islamic terrorists and radical leftist activists both are enemies of what I believe in some sense, but they're definitely enemies of each other as well. So, especially if you're coming from a Christian perspective like me, of course there are other false religions that disagree with each other and consider each other to be false religions. So it's like I don't know, philosophical enemies of mine would be atheists and Muslims, and they're enemies of each other. So I'm not friends with atheists just because we have a common disagreement with Muslims, and I'm not friends with Muslims just because we have a common disagreement with atheists. Okay, military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. I guess I would say agree, just because the word international, I don't know. It's like there are some things that countries have to do to maintain order, and I think maintaining order is important. But then again, who am I? I don't really know. That's why I'm saying agree instead of strongly agree. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I'll have to disagree for a selfish reason because fusing information and entertainment is literally what my whole channel is all about. So I'm very biased on this one. Like I'm literally talking about advanced theological topics and philosophical topics while I play Minecraft in most of my videos. That's the definition of fusing information and entertainment. So I guess I'll have to disagree with that. All right. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I mean, there's something to that, but at the same time, different cultures, like someone's culture, shapes the way they think about everything. So I'm gonna have to disagree there. But then I don't really know. I could go either way on this one. I'll have to disagree. Okay, controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I'll have to strongly agree, just because inflation has been really bad in the past few years, and I don't know. I guess in controlling unemployment will be good too. I think this is a question of, okay, do you care more about the economy or do you care more about people? And that's sort of like a left wing way to view the world, like the economy versus people. And the right wing perspective would say, no, if you help the economy, you are helping people. So I guess I'll say strongly agree, but this is probably the strongest opinion I'll have on any of the economic questions. Actually, maybe I'll just say agree because I don't really know. On most of the economic questions, I'm only going to be choosing one of these two, and on the more social, cultural, or religious questions, I'll be saying strongly. All right, because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Strongly agree. And this is the main thing that I think the Republicans, like the mainstream right in America, is simply wrong about. There is no profit incentive to protect the environment. And Christians, I think, should care about the environment. It doesn't mean we have to get on board with all the environmentalist movements that the left likes, but we still need to steward God's creation. It's like the reason the whole mind your own business and do what you want doesn't apply to the environment is because what you do to the environment impacts everyone. It's like you can't have a peeing section of the pool. All right, from each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Well, I know that's from Karl Marx, and even though I'm not, is it from Karl Marx actually? It's from one of the communists. And even though I'm not really sure what I believe about economics, I know it's not communism, so I'm going to say strongly agree. The freer the market, the freer the people? Not necessarily, because oftentimes what happens when a market becomes really free is you get monopolies who like basically subject people to slave labor. That's what I think. Again, I'm saying disagree, not strongly disagree, because I'm not educated at all on things like economics. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled branded consumer product. I would have to say disagree because oftentimes, even though there are like microplastics and stuff, oftentimes the bottled water that's made by like companies is like cleaner and safer than like the local tap water. So I don't see anything inherently wrong with water being sold if the result is the water quality being better. Okay, land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. No, I don't see why this is true. I mean, I'm sure the Marxists or communists have some argument for this, but I don't know. It's regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate. Yeah, I agree. I know the laissez-faire capitalists won't like me on this one, but come on. Like, seriously, some of the like whole stock market things, it doesn't make sense to me. They're not really doing anything. And I know the early church fathers were very against like borrowing, lending money, all that. The Catholic Church traditionally has been that. Even though I'm not Catholic, I think generally when I don't know about a political issue, I just defer to Catholic social teaching because Calvinist social teaching, which is called neo-Calvinism, I think is pretty similar to Catholic social teaching. Okay, what is this? This how do I stop seeing no, I don't. How do I get the ad is blocking the question. Okay, stop seeing this ad. Okay, not interested. Okay. Okay, can you move. Okay, can you move your ad, please? I'm trying to take a political compass test over here. Seriously? Are you serious right now? You're not gonna let me. You know what? I'm answering the other questions. Okay, the only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. No, why? No, the social responsibility of everyone is to have a positive impact on society. So, okay, the rich are too highly taxed. I don't know. I mean, if they're rich, they have more of an obligation to give to other people. If you read the Bible, especially the Old Testament, that seems to be the message. Okay, those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Doesn't sound very Christian to me. I'm sorry. I know that sometimes it's like, okay, your access to healthcare should be a motivation. And personally, I'm undecided on universal healthcare. I don't know. I would say disagree because, especially like for children, a lot of children need healthcare, and the children with better healthcare are the ones that have wealthier parents. Like they didn't choose to be born into a less wealthy household. Stop seeing this ad. I'm not interested in this ad. Okay. Can I know what this is at all? Why is this blocked? Okay. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Yes, I agree. Because if you're misleading the public and you're lying, that's never good. Truth is good, lies are not good. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Yeah, I agree with this. Okay, what is this? I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna say agree. I don't know. I'm taking a chance on this one. It probably won't tip the scales too much. Okay, now this is social values. This is where my strong opinions. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Strongly agree. All authority should be questioned. Strongly disagree. You do not question God's authority, and God has put the civil magistrates in place as lesser authorities to restrain evil. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Now, I'm going to say strongly agree with the caveat. When Jesus denounced an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, he was not denouncing that as a civil policy. He was denouncing that in our interpersonal relations. Because the Old Testament says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth is how the government should punish criminals. However, the government is there to provide sort of a common grace, a civic righteousness. But the government adheres to nature, but Christians are to adhere to grace. There's a difference between nature and grace. So the government should do justice, but Christians should show mercy because we know that Jesus has forgiven our sins, so we need to forgive other people's sins. So in our relationships, the rule is turn the other cheek. But for the government, the rule is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So you don't take revenge against other people interpersonally, but the government still has a responsibility to punish criminals to provide for the common good. All right, taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Strongly disagree. We need to be building libraries, we need to be building museums that can help people learn stuff, because if the commercial basis is all that matters, it's just going to be lowest common denominator stuff. If this was really put into effect, we would just replace all the great libraries of the world with Burger King or whatever. Okay, schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Strongly disagree. I don't want some hoodlums skipping school so they can smoke weed outside. Like, that's what I saw in my school, because public schools don't discipline anyone. I'm very in favor of public school discipline for everything. Smoking weed, vaping, anything that's stupid. If you're stupid, you should get in trouble for it. That's what I think. So now my more extreme views are coming out, you can see. All people have their rights, but it's better for us that different sorts of people keep to their own kind. Well, what do you mean by that? If it's like different special interest groups, like people who are interested in, I don't know, biking or hiking or swimming, probably will make friends of their own kind. I don't know what this means. I'm going to put my own spin in this. All religious groups should have rights, but it's better that different religions marry within their own kind. And then I'm just going to say agree to the way I personally interpreted this question. Because I'm against, like, intermarriage in terms of religion. I think Christians should marry Christians, Jews should marry Jews, Muslims should marry Muslims, atheists should marry atheists. Because religion is the bedrock of society, and it's just not good. It doesn't create good values in society if you have different religions intermarrying. Okay, good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Strongly agree. I was actually a really bad kid when I was little. I did a lot of really bad stuff. A lot of times I deserved to be spanked really hard. But my parents were kind of hippies at the time, so they didn't believe in spanking, even though I did a lot of spank-worthy things. So, I don't know. I definitely should have been spanked. It's natural to keep it's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. I would say strongly disagree because I support the authority of parents. Okay. Again, here's this stupid little ad over here. Can I at least move this? Actually, no, I think I know what this question is because I've taken... No. I've taken this test before. It's some, like, the possession of marijuana should not be a criminal offense. It says, like, the possession of marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense, and I strongly disagree. I think anyone who has ever smoked, possessed, or looked at marijuana needs to be sent to Alaska for life. Seriously. Because I hate that New York City now smells like weed. It used to smell great when it smelled like cigarettes, but now it smells like weed, and we can't have that. So, I don't know. I support criminalizing all drugs, and basically, I support criminalizing basically everything I don't like. We should also criminalize pineapple on pizza. All right, the prime function of schooling should be equip the future generation to find jobs. I would say disagree because schooling should. I support the more classical education. Now, I'm not totally against public schools. I think public schools need to become better. In practice today, the public schools are terrible. So if you want your kids to be raised well, you should probably send them to, I don't know, maybe a Catholic school or maybe a secular private school. I'm for Christian schools in theory, but not in practice, because most Christian schools, aside from Catholic schools, have absolutely dog crap academics, and they're just an embarrassment to the kingdom of God. All right. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Disagree. This is like eugenics, and this is what the abortionists often advocate. Like in Iceland, they say they cured Down syndrome. They did not cure Down syndrome, they just killed everyone who had it because they killed all the unborn children with Down syndrome. So this is eugenics, this is like Nazi crap. No, I don't agree with this. Now, of course, there are hard questions. I'm not denying this. That's why I'm saying disagree rather than strongly. But this general sentiment, it goes to dangerous places. All right, the most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Strongly agree. Like I said, I deserved to be disciplined a lot as a kid, and I got away with a lot of stuff I shouldn't have gotten away with. There are no savage and civilized peoples, there's only different cultures. Strongly disagree. Even in the US, there's different cultures within the US, some of which are better than others. Because, for example, New York is the best culture, because New York is a civilized culture, and everyone else is savage. Like everyone, all the other states, whether it's Texas, Florida, California, Delaware, Ohio, North Dakota, all those are savage cultures, but New York is the best. So there definitely are no. In all seriousness, though, of course, I believe all peoples are made in the image of God, and the kingdom of God is made up of every tribe, tongue, and nation. But certain cultures are better than others because culture is tied in with religion. And of course, I believe certain religions are better than others because I'm a Christian. I think Christianity is the best religion. And I think wherever Christianity goes, it changes the culture. So I think because of that, Christian cultures are inherently better than non Christian cultures. And I think we all need to advocate for a Christian culture. And that means it's the job of Christians to transform the culture to make it more Christian. And I know the radical two kingdoms people really won't like that, but I don't care. All right, those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Strongly agree. Like, they're able to work and refuse the opportunity. Now, I know that I'm not supposed to analyze the question too much, but I agree with the general sentiment that everyone should work. Okay, when you are troubled, it is better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I'd say strongly agree, actually. I don't really like the whole mental health movement. I have several videos criticizing the mental health movement that say like, oh, we need to talk more about depression and anxiety. No, we need to talk less about it. You know why? Because the moment you actually talk about your own mental problems, you're legitimizing them and you're making them worse. Because they exist in your head, the more mental attention you give to them, the more real they become because they're already in your head in the first place. So I think even if there is some problem, it's better just to not think about it because it creates an endless cycle of misery when you're thinking about what's going on in your own head, when you're using your head to think about your own head. All right, first generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. I don't know. Again, not really something I have stake in the game for. My grandmother is a first generation immigrant. She's a war refugee from Lithuania. I'd say she's pretty integrated, so I'd say disagree. All right, what's good for the most successful corporations is ultimately good. Okay, I said corporations like Bernie Sanders there. We need to tax the corporations. We need to tax the top 1/10% and give 100% of the wealth to me. There is no justice when the top 50% have more wealth than the bottom 50%. I can talk like Bernie Sanders pretty well because most of my extended family speaks like him. I'm ethnically Jewish, remember, and from New York. Okay, what's good for the most successful corporations is ultimately good for all of us? No, why would that be true? Like, if a corporation pollutes my river with sludge, it might be good for them because they made a profit, but it's not good for me because I'm drinking sludge. So, no. All right, no broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'd say agree. I don't really know what to think about that. Okay, our civil liberties are excessively being curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I would disagree in general. The one exception I would make is that the TSA, when I'm trying to board a plane, it's annoying that I have to, like, take all of my stuff out of my backpack. Like I travel around the country a lot. That's put in a bunch of separate bins. So I know that their work is very important. It's just really annoying. So if I'm really acting on instincts, I would say strongly agree. But I know that it's very important that they do what they need to do. So I don't know. I like the new sort of X-ray scanners that have where you don't need to take everything out of your backpack and have everything fall out while everyone's like grabbing bins in front of you. I like the new things where you can just leave everything in your backpack and it scans you for you. It scans it for you. Okay, a significant advantage of a one-party state. It avoids all the arguments that delay progress in the democratic political system. I would say strongly agree. A one-party state. Think about it. It's not inherently bad. It depends on what the party is. If it's the Communist Party, it's probably not very good. But if it's the based Presbyterian Party, it probably would be good. I know that's a contradiction because Presbyterians, by definition, support separation of church and state. But a lot of conservatives are like, oh, I hate big government. Government isn't a bad word. It just depends on who is running the government. Government it's a tool, and like all tools, it's good or bad depending on who's using it. Okay, although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly agree. I don't really keep secrets. I mean, generally speaking, if someone really, really doesn't want surveillance, especially in public, why is that? What are they doing? I guess in your own bedroom, yeah, you don't want like a drone spying on you through your window. But like in the public square, of course we need surveillance because if not, how are we going to catch criminals? And that's very important, especially for women's safety. Like in like sexual assault crimes, it's really hard to determine who did it. So for the safety of people, especially the more vulnerable, we need more surveillance so that we can catch criminals. Okay, the death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Strongly agree. And I think anyone who makes a piece of modern art that counts as one of these serious crimes. Okay, I'm kidding. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed, people below to be commanded. Strongly agree. No, we need hierarchy, we need ritual, we need tradition. That's just what I was talking about. The abstract art, the modern art. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Strongly agree. Modern art is spiritual terrorism. You're wondering why there's so much depression among Gen Z? One of the reasons is, of course, abandoning God. But I think a secondary reason, which flows from the abandonment of God and the abandonment of traditional religion, everything is ugly. Even like a bridge that was built 100 years ago looks way more high church than a church that was built 10 years ago. Your average bridge over some sewer in New York City looks more like a cathedral than your average PCA Presbyterian church. Right? Okay. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Strongly agree. It is a waste of time to rehabilitate some criminals. Strongly agree. If someone committed like a really heinous crime, yeah, you want them to be rehabilitated, and maybe you want to save their soul. That's why I support prison ministries. But they also need to be punished. You are actively sinning against the person they wronged if you do not punish them. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, it is biblical. I don't know, if you kill someone's loved one, and then the whole purpose of jail is just like a therapy session for you, then you're sinning against the people whose loved one you killed. All right? The business person, okay, at least this is not blocking anything this time. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. I would disagree because, I don't know, I'm someone who thinks ideas are really important. Ideas and the theoretical. I tend to focus more on the theoretical than the actual because I'm a math major in college. I'm more of a Platonist theologically and philosophically speaking. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I'll strongly agree, knowing that it says mothers, because not all women need to be mothers. But if someone is a mother, they do have a unique duty to be a homemaker. And I'm not saying women can't have careers, it's just they have a unique duty to be homemakers. I'm not saying men can't be homemakers, they just have a unique duty to provide. And that's just the way it is naturally anyway. And the only reason it's not like that is because of an active push to challenge that. That's my approach to gender roles overall. It's that I don't think we need to enforce gender roles, but I don't think we need to challenge them either. We just need to let people be the way they naturally are, and gender roles will just form themselves naturally. Like on the playground when you're 5, the boys and the girls behave completely differently. It's not because anyone is telling them to conform to societal norms, it's just the way they are. All right. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I agree. You know, I play Minecraft, but Minecraft is actually real in the Congo. What I mean is that, like, a lot of your iPhones and stuff, they rely on, like, slave labor in Central Africa to mine those metals that go into your phones. And that's why I think it's really hypocritical when, I don't know, some woke Emilys in college are going to boycott Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A may or may not have some statements that could be interpreted as homophobic. Because those same girls are tweeting about that on their iPhone, which is made by slaves in a sweatshop in China or something. So, are the corporations that are very common in America, they exploit third world countries a lot. So, if you're going to be all about social justice, you need to be consistent, and maybe you need to buy less, I don't know, Starbucks drinks and pollute them everywhere. Like, seriously, I went to a very woke high school, and everyone was always going to, like, the protests for the environment, but then they would always get drunk and stupid on the weekends and party in the forest and then litter all their garbage everywhere. And me and the Boy Scout troop, because I was a Boy Scout leader, we would have to clean up their mess. So much for environmentalism. That's why I say I do support environmentalism. I don't support the environmentalists because they're often hypocritical. Okay? Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I say strongly agree because I need to make peace with the establishment of my liberal leaning denomination, the Presbyterian Church USA, if I'm going to try and make it return to its Christian roots. And of course, when I say liberal, I mean theologically liberal. I'm not talking about politically liberal. This is actually the only video I've ever made that's actually about politics, but in that one statement, I was referring to liberal theology, not liberal politics. Astrology accurately explains many things. Okay, if I was going to analyze this question and answer it formally, I would actually say yes. The Bible doesn't say avoid astrology because it's all wrong and made up. It says to avoid astrology because it's demonic. Like, I used to, like, laugh at all the horoscopes, and then I read my horoscope thinking it was going to be something totally BS, but then it was shockingly and unsettlingly accurate, so that's when I really started to avoid it. Because if there's any sort of spiritual practice that is not directly centered on Christ and prescribed by the Christian tradition in the Bible, either it's completely made up or it relies on the powers of demons. So either way, you don't want to do it. But because I'm not answering this formally, I'm just going to click strongly disagree. You cannot be moral without being religious. Strongly agree. Now, I don't think, I'm a Calvinist, I believe in total depravity. I don't think anyone is good enough in terms of morals. But I agree with the general sentiment of the idea that religion is necessary for morality. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I mean, I do believe the government has the responsibility to help people, but I also support the charity work that churches do. So I'm going to say strongly agree. Some people are naturally unlucky. Now, I'm a Calvinist. I believe in predestination and God's providence. I don't believe in luck, but I know what they mean. I know what they're trying to say. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Okay, here's another thing where I agree with the sentiment of the question, but in reality, I don't think schools necessarily need to be religious. Like I said, I support Christian schools in theory, but only if they're actually academically good. Because a lot of times, parents will just shelter their kids by sending them to Christian schools, but a lot of the times those Christian schools have really subpar academics. And then the children just associate Christianity with the cringiest stuff you could imagine. So I guess what I'll say is it's important to me that my children are catechized, that the children grow up in the faith, but they don't necessarily need to learn that at school. Because it really depends. I want my kids to go to where they're going to get objectively the best education, whether that's a Christian school or not. Because also, a lot of kids hate school. A lot of parents are like, we can't send our kids to public schools because the public schools don't teach Christian stuff. Yeah, but kids always associate high school, for the most part, with the worst time in their lives, unless they're like a football player or a big shot or something. So, a lot of the most jaded atheists I've ever seen, the most strong atheists, grew up in a Christian school because they associated Christianity with boring high school. So, I would say strongly agree because I agree with the general sentiment of this. Alright, sex outside marriage is usually immoral. I'll say strongly agree, except I'm going to change that to always. A same-sex couple in a loving, stable relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Strongly disagree. Children have a right to a mother and a father. That can't always work out. There's tragedies that happen, but generally speaking, that should be what everyone strives for. And I don't think sex and marriage were made for anything other than a man and a woman. All right? Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Strongly disagree, obviously. Pornography exploits women. Pornography fuels sex trafficking. You can make a list of 1,000 reasons why pornography is the work of the devil. There's so much that is being uncovered about the sex trafficking that goes on with the porn industry, and it corrupts the mind. It exploits women, and it corrupts the minds of young men, and it makes both of them unable to enjoy natural relationships. Okay, what goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Strongly disagree. They say you can't legislate morality. Why is that? Why can't you legislate morality? If you have a law against murder, that's legislating morality. If you have a law against stealing, that's legislating morality. Everyone wants to legislate morality in some sense. And even if you're someone who's like fully supportive of LGBTQ, okay, would you want it to be legal for, I don't know, people to have incest with perfect contraception so they wouldn't actually produce a child? Would you want incest to be legal? Most people would still say no. So if you're saying no to anything, then in some sense there is a role for the state to play in regulating people's personal lives. No one can feel naturally homosexual. These two words do not belong in the same sentence together. So I would say strongly agree. These days, openness about sex has gone way too far. I strongly agree. All right, that's the end of it. Now, where do I stand? Okay. Yada, yada, yada. It's certainly fine for... I'm not reading all that. That's too boring. Okay, so I know what the general quadrants mean. I'm not reading all this. Okay, this is North Korea. This is China. This is Saudi Arabia. This is Singapore. I do know that I like Singapore and how they approach issues. Okay, I'm not reading this. That's interesting. Authoritarian left. I would have thought I'm more in the authoritarian right quadrant. But I don't know. I guess I'm a communist or something. I didn't expect, like, the past few times when I've taken it, I've been somewhere in the authoritarian right quadrant. But I guess I've gotten really liberal in the past few years, and everyone in the comments is going to say it's the PC USA rubbing off on me. I don't agree with how the political compass ranks it, because I would consider conservative social views points in the right direction, but I think this compass considers them points in the authoritarian direction. So maybe that's what it is, and I probably just lost half my subscribers, but that's fine. I believe in honesty, and I don't care about offending people. I never have, and I never will. So thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you guys later.